So I used to be a huge reader, but then I got busy in college trying to balance my new schedule and I never had time to keep up the habit. But this year, my friend recommended that I pick up a certain book, and that's when my love sparked again, and now I'll never ever stop reading ever again. I have lived 1,000 lives and I've loved 1,000 loves. I've walked on distant worlds and seen the end of time, all because I read. Hey everyone, and welcome to it. I have had tons of requests to make videos about books, so I thought where else to start than tell you guys about what books got me back into reading, so that if you guys were thinking about picking reading back up, you would have some recommendations. So to start, I read on my Kindle for the most part. I do have some physical books here, but almost all of my reading I do on a Kindle. This was actually passed down from my grandma. She gave it to me because she was upgrading hers. I believe this is the Kindle Paperwhite, but it's a few years, like I think it's like 2018 maybe. I don't know, I have the specifics, I'll put them here on the screen for you guys. Although it is older, I don't really see a need to upgrade because it does everything that I need it to, so I've just been loving it. I read books so much faster on a Kindle. I love how lightweight it is, so I'm not sitting there holding up a big book at night in bed and making my arms tired. Not worrying about accidentally spilling my coffee on my paper book pages. It fits in my purse, so I can just throw it in there and take it wherever with me. Like if I'm going to the doctor's and I'm just waiting in the lobby and want to read, I could take it with me then. Now I did get this little sleeve that it goes in for Christmas. It's the cutest thing ever. Not necessary at all, but I just love it. It's so cute. Fits right in there. Here's my case and all my stickers and accessories. Some of them are themed after some of the books that I've read. There's a few like Taylor Swift, Frenchie one for my dogs, and then just some cute plants and coffee because those are things I love. I will link my Kindle and all of my accessories down below, so if you guys are interested, I'll put it all down there because I feel like I've spent some good time curating this to be the right aesthetic and be cute. All right, now to get into the books. I read 20 books last year and that was starting in July. So I didn't actually like start my reading journey until July of 2023, so over halfway through the year. And that's where I picked up this bad boy. Now you might have heard a lot about the series. It's a very popular series, very loved, well-loved series for good reason. So this series is single-handedly the series that got me back into reading. I love it so much. It actually took me a long time to get into it. I tried to read it in I think March of that year over spring break and I just could not get into it. It took me a while, so I gave up, but then I picked it back up in July and it took about like 40 pages until I got into it. I was not being very patient at all. So just beware, there's a little bit of world building and stuff like that to get through before it starts picking up and getting to the plot. But it's so good and the rest of the series is just the best. A lot of people say get through the first book and then the rest of the series is amazing. I do really like the first book, but it's true, the rest of the series is amazing. Now it is more of like an adult series, so just like a content warning on that. I was not really aware of that when I started reading it and I was just like, oh, okay. Also, this video is gonna be no spoilers, so don't worry about that. But basically, this series is about a girl who gets dragged into this fantasy world all because of a deal she made, and then it all goes insane from there. I don't know what else to say that wouldn't spoil it, but basically there's a lot of war, mythical creatures, action scenes, love, and more. It's just so good. It has some great plot twists, which were insane. The second book of the series is a very popular book. It's a lot of people's #1 like favorite out of the whole series, but my favorite from the whole series is the third book, if you're asking me. There's just so many cool like action parts and war scenes and like emotions during war and like all that kind of stuff. So that's my favorite. It's just so good. And then there's the fourth book. It's kind of like a mini little palette cleanser. It's short. It's just like a cute little story. I read these all on my Kindle, by the way. That's why I don't have a physical copy to show you. But then lastly, there's the fifth book, which is a little different than the rest of the series. It's a different point of view than the first 4 books, which actually made me so sad because I was so attached to the character that the first book was about and like reading it from her point of view. I did grow to like it after reading it. It wasn't my favorite of the series, like I said, but it was a good one. So that series was so good. I highly recommend reading that series if you're interested. Again, that's the one that got me into this whole reading genre, but there's another one that I have to recommend to you that if you don't want a big of a commitment as a 5-book series, at least right now, you can do this next one that I'll talk about in a second. And I do want to say, while I was getting into reading, I do read a lot of like the popular book talk books, so a lot of these books are not groundbreaking finds. I don't have any unique recommendations, so if that's what you're looking for, I'm so sorry, but there's a reason that all of these books are well loved, so I chose to read those for that reason. And also kind of going off of that, I feel like I've learned that the reason I didn't read much in college is because I also wasn't reading the right books. I was torturing myself trying to force myself to read all these self-help books because I felt like that's what I was supposed to be reading, but obviously they weren't as exciting to me. I didn't want to pick them up every day or every night before bed to read because it was so boring. So this past year I definitely released released the pressure of feeling like I had to be reading all these different self-help books and improvement books to better myself, and rather read stuff that's actually going to make me happy and excited and stuff like that. So I feel like it's just a good reminder to try different genres and stuff like that and dabble in different things and just see what sparks your interest. I do want to definitely read some self-help books this year. I have a few on my list. Not saying never read them, but I'm saying I think that's why I didn't read as much in college, because I just wasn't finding the stuff that sparked my interest. All right, the next book you also might have seen all over the place. We, of course, have Fourth Wing. This is a very popular book. It's so good. I've been recommending this one to anybody who ever asks me what to read, just because it's very fast-paced, gets your attention right off the bat. The love interest is super cute and intriguing. The whole world itself is really cool. So this is about dragons and riders and trying to make it through almost like a writer's academy to learn skills and then also pair with a dragon eventually. So it's just really cool. Whenever I talk about these books out loud, I'm like, that just sounds so silly. But I swear it's so good. Now, this isn't like the most advanced, amazingly written like book out there. I know it gets a lot of hate for not being like well written and the author is not the best, but I think it's entertaining. It's a good way to get into the romantasy genre. I'm not sure how many books this series is. I think people might have said 5. I don't know though. Don't quote me on that. But basically there's one book and book 2 is out now. So it just came out. I read it in 2 days when it came out because I was just in love with this little world that it's all in. So it's really good. Highly recommend. I have the cool little special edition copies with the sprayed edges. Wow. 2 of my best friends and then my sister and I, we started a little mini book club and we read this book for our book club and it was so much fun. We got to like talk every week about it and just get so excited about it. And then when the second book came out, we had a little party after we all finished it. I'll insert some pictures, but we wore like our Black Riders gear and we made themed drinks for different characters that we liked. We took quizzes to see what dragons we would pair with, and it was just so much fun. I just love this little world. It's so good to get into everything, like I said. Now, I would love if you read every book that I talk about today, but if any of them in particular that you read, I feel like this one is so good if you haven't read it. And then move into ACOTAR, and then move into the one I'm about to talk to you about next. Okay, this next series I read all on my Kindle. And you guys, I think about this book series every single day. It's taken over my life. I finished it about 3 weeks ago and it still lives rent-free in my head. I think this is my new favorite series of all time. I cannot get over this series. It's so good. So this is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. She's also the author that wrote the ACOTAR series that I talked about first. I think this is like her first series she ever wrote when she was young. It's very long. It's 8 books. But there are some really cool aspects of it. There's a few different ways that you can read it. So read the prequel first in like the order that the timeline goes, or you can read the prequel after you finish the second book, so you can read that third. I don't know, it's kind of confusing. So I read the prequel third, but I kind of wish I would have read it first, just because I feel like it would have had more of an emotional impact on me. So it's up to you on which way you would like to read it. But I don't know, there's lots of debates on which way you should read it. It doesn't really matter, obviously, but I don't know. Sometimes I wish I would have read it first. That's just what I have to say. So there's that. But then also there's something called a tandem read once you get to the book 6 and 7. So that means you read book 6 and 7 at the same time, flipping between the different chapters based on a guide that somebody created. All you have to look up is Throne of Glass Tandem Read Guide, and it comes up with all the different chapters that you should read. It looks like this. It's really cool. I loved reading these books like this. This is one of the coolest things I've ever done. But yeah, this series just has like my entire heart. I love it so much. I feel like I went through so many different emotions reading these books. I'm not normally a crier, but I cried so many times in this book series because I think that since it's such a long series, you really get to know every character through all of their thoughts and emotions. So when things happen, you are so attached to them, especially by the last book of the series, and then things start hitting the fan and you just are so happy and sad, and it's just so good. And it's also one of these series where she wrote, I don't know how she did it, but she planned things to where there's almost like a little invisible string connecting them all along. So like during the last few books, everything is coming out of nowhere and you're like, oh my gosh, wait, that's the person from the first book. That's insane. They're coming back. Like, I literally love it when that happens in books. So I was just jaw on the floor every single time something like that happened. Everything is just connected in some way and it's amazing. So I just highly recommend that series. It's just so good. It's definitely a lot to get through, but it is so worth it, I swear. Another series that I read this year with my book club was called A Serpent of Wings and Night. So I think it's It's 2 books, but then there's also like a 1.5, so like one that you can read in the middle of it if you want. We read the first one and then the 1.5, and I haven't read the second one yet, so don't have a full opinion. But basically this book series is like Hunger Games but with vampires, so it's kind of cool. I was a huge Hunger Games fan in middle school, so this was really fun for me to read. I wouldn't say it's like one of the best book series I've ever read or anything like that, but I give it like 4.5 stars maybe. It was good though, it was really fun. And then I wanted to talk about 2 little cute romance books that I read this year. So the ones that I've talked about so far were romance and fantasy, and now these ones are just romance. So normal people, not vampires and fae and all these other creatures. Number 1 was Love Theoretically. I read this because my best friend, who also told me to read ACOTAR, said this is one of her favorite books of all time after she read it, so I gave it a read. Well, I gave it a listen. I listened to it on an audiobook while I was painting my office in here. It was just really cute. It's about a physicist who is a big people pleaser, so it was kind of cool to relate to her on that aspect. Not the physicist part. But she falls for the rival physicist of hers who almost destroyed her field. So craziness. I just thought the vibes overall were just super cute and sweet. And then another one I read this year, I just read it in December. It was called Love Light Farms. I wanted a cute little Christmas read to get into the holiday spirit, so I read it like a few days before Christmas. I didn't realize it was a whole series that I was signing myself up for. I don't know if I'll finish the series, but it basically like goes through the other characters from the first book in the rest of the series, so that's kind of cool. I love it when that happens. But this one was about a small town tree farm business, and the main character fake dates her best friend for some influencer contest that she entered to try and win some money and like a giveaway for the farm. So kind of fun. I don't know. The plot, there wasn't really much going on there, I felt like. But then again, I was also comparing it to all these crazy, insane plot twist fantasy books that I was reading all year, so that's probably why it was a little boring to me. But it was really cute and sweet and definitely something different than what I had been reading all year. Obviously, I read a few more this year that I didn't mention, but those were the ones that really stuck out to me and that I would recommend. And then next, I wanted to talk about the books that I have on my list for this year. I am so excited about this. Next on my list is the Crescent City series. So I think this might be the second book. I don't know. I'm not going to spoil it on accident. But this is a series I'm going to move on to next. Again, it's the same author that wrote ACOTAR and Throne of Glass, so I know I'm probably going to love it. And I think some of the characters may or may not come back on the previous series in this series, like maybe at the end of the third book that's coming out. I don't really know. But I'm just so excited. I have been starting this one though. Well, I think this is the second book. I've been starting the first one on my Kindle, slowly getting through it, but I do need to read faster because, so you see kind of how big these books are. There's 2 out already, and then the third one is coming out on January 30th, so literally this month. So I need to read the first and the second book by then, and then read the third one at the end of this month. So I've got some work to do, but I'm so excited to get into this. I've heard it's a lot of world building, and it takes a minute to get into it and get things started, but I don't care. I know I'm probably gonna love it, so I'm excited. That's number 1 up next for me. Then after that series, I am hoping to read the Caraval series. I've heard a lot about it, but I'm mainly reading that one because I've heard it's a prequel, or at least some of the characters are in it from this other series that I really want to read, which is this one. I'm just so obsessed with the covers, you guys. So this is the series I really want to read, but I think I need to read the other one before I read this one. So that's why that one's up next. And then this one, it's called the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I've heard so much about it. They just seem so cute. I mean, come on, the covers, that's what influenced me to read them in the first place. So I'm so excited. These are the UK edition covers. I bought them from London and had them shipped here because I wanted these covers so bad. But they're so worth it. So freaking cute. And then I wrote down that I kind of want to reread Percy Jackson for fun because I was obsessed with that in elementary school and middle school. Like, obsessed. It was kind of crazy. They've been remaking it as a TV show. My husband and I have been watching that every Tuesday night. It's really good, and it's making me want to reread the books. They're very short and small. Obviously they're kids books, so I could just fly through them if I wanted to, because I am a little bit of a faster reader. So I've been thinking about that. And then I also would love to explore some other genres, like thrillers maybe. I think I used to read those in like middle school, so I'm really interested. Or if you guys have any other recommendations for different genres, or even just other books that you think I would like based off of what I've told you in this video, I would love any and all recommendations. I need to add to to my TBR, which is like to be read. I don't know, that's what everyone calls it. I need to add some books that are similar to all these. So let me know if you have any favorites. Hopefully you guys found a book that you are interested in picking up and reading by watching this video. I really hope you did, because I love all these books with my whole heart. I know I've said that a lot, especially the Throne of Glass series. Okay, I'll stop talking about it. But I'm so glad that I picked up this hobby again this year. I don't know why. How was I ever living without it? I don't know. That's gonna be it for this video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.